To go from no due process out to El Salvador, goodbye, to we're just going to slam him with trumped-up charges, this is much better. And the egregiousness of these charges means that they're not confident in their ability to silence him with accurate charges. If these charges are falsified, which we can only assume they are because the Trump administration has done nothing but lie about this man, that would mean they didn't feel confident like hitting him with lower charges or with none at all. They still feel they need to weaponize the state against him, but this is much more transparent. He's going to be getting interview opportunities like constantly, nonstop. They might deny him interviewer access, but hey, look, you know, look at what happened with Luigi, right? Luigi doesn't get any time with the reporters, and in spite of that, he's held, you know, dear in the hearts of many Americans. This is going to be every defense attorney's wet dream. Oh, God, yeah. He's going to have like 57 pro bono Harvard lawyers who are looking to make their career defending him. Same thing happened to, oh, Jesus, I'm blanking on his name. Come on. He's the Mahmoud Khalil. Mahmoud Khalil. He hasn't had to pay a cent for any of his legal defense. They arrested him for protesting against Israel, and every lawyer within earshot jumped on him and was like, please, God, hire me. Trump knows from personal experience trials only give you more publicity. Yeah, but that's the thing. And that's one of the nice things about the incompetence of the Republicans, okay? It's actually pretty difficult to silence people in this country, right? If you can hold them in ICE detention indefinitely, and that has happened, but it's difficult to do consistently. And if the media finds out about it, people tend to get pretty upsetty spaghetti, you know? If you hold people in regular jails, usually they can be accessed pretty easily by lawyers. How do you keep a person disappeared? Well, traditionally, authoritarian regimes either send them to, like, gulags, basically, which is what they tried with El Salvador, but it didn't work because one of our Democratic senators went down there. So even then, El Salvador backed down and allowed him a meeting, and it did lead to more press coverage. So even sending people to other countries doesn't seem to be that effective, especially because, again, when you send people to other countries, you have to do so by plane. Like, it's easy to track these flights. They've been trying to send people to Sudan and Libya and, you know, what have you. It's a mockery of the system, to be sure, and it's very, very dangerous, but it's also very loud. Like, to be clear, right, Germany sent millions of people to the camps. The Soviet Union sent millions of people to Siberia. The Trump administration is tripping over itself trying to get single-digit numbers of people over to Libya. It's just difficult to get away with stuff like that in a modern, relatively, in a historical context, democratic state, you know? When everyone's got a goddamn camera phone, it's just tough. It's really difficult to get away with doing stuff like that. Everyone's got a damn smartphone. And not to mention, like, the other option that's on the table for authoritarian regimes, killing people, they can't really do because they haven't crossed that line yet. They just haven't. That's the Rubicon right there. There is eventually a point in every fascist regime where a dissident journalist or an opposing politician dies. And everyone knows who did it, and everyone's too scared to say it, right? That's like the line. And so far, they haven't crossed it. It's all like police brutality and stochastic terror, you know, not deliberate targeted assassination. They did it in Italy. They did it in Germany. Pinochet did it. Everyone does it. OK, but so far they haven't. And my guess is they're still not going to be able to. Why? Global capital. Who the is going to want to do business in the United States when everyone knows the government will just straight up assassinate you if you disagree with them? I'm sorry. People are just too comfy these days. I just don't think they're complaining about the refresh, you know. I don't think that the modern social framework is tolerant of that sort of thing. They do business in China. Well, yeah, but China doesn't really do that. China has disappeared dissident activists, but usually, in fact, to my knowledge entirely, it does so to its own. Canadians got disappeared, but they were spies. Okay, spies get treated differently, all right? Spies get treated differently. I guess a comparable example in America would be, imagine if America made it clear that it's willing to disappear and kill political enemies, but only its citizens. The Trump administration does it in the opposite direction. They treat non-citizens like the disprivileged class. Basically, the point that I'm getting at here is that China is usually, like, in order to encourage foreign investment, China cracks down more on its own people than it does foreign investors. America has gone in the opposite direction. We're way harsher on non-citizens than we are citizens, obviously. Like, that's the whole pretext of the attack on Abrego Garcia, right? Like, that's the entire framework they're using. It's the justification. So as a consequence of that, I don't really see how the Trump administration can take things to that final step. It would just make the country too unstable. I'm very optimistic about this. You guys you understand what I know I stuttered a bit in the middle there, but you understand what I'm talking about, right? The fact that he's now being subject to due process, the fact this is being run through the court system now, this is a walk back. It's a show of weakness from the Trump administration. As a matter of fact, a 2-count indictment which was filed under seal in federal court in Tennessee last month. Here's an interesting question. Do you think they did this after El Salvador said, dude, we can't hold him anymore? Remember, Bukele, we know this, Bukele initially thought he would only be hosting convicted criminals in El Salvador. When Trump surprised him by sending over people who hadn't even been charged, he was uncomfortable with it because, again, you know, El Salvador is kind of a poor backwater country and Bukele is pretty young. He's going to be around for a while. So is the United States. Trump will not be. Trump is old. So how do you think it's going to make El Salvador look in the eyes of future American governments, maybe democratic governments, if he's holding non-criminal American citizens in torture camps? At least if they were convicted criminals. Doubt it. Why would he care? We know he cares. That's not a conjecture. We know for a fact he cares. He cares because it makes him look way the fuck worse to the future American regimes if he's holding on to people who haven't even been charged. Has Bukele said anything recently? No, he's not going to say that out loud, but we know how he reacted initially. It makes me wonder, after more heat got brought onto Abrego here, I wonder if Bukele was like, listen, this one's too hot. You got to take him back. I wonder if this was prompted by him. I'm not sure. It could have been prompted by Trump or by Bukele. But my guess is that Bukele might. To Vash's point, this is the type of shit that makes international capital and politicians nervous. Yes, this is the kind of shit that destabilizes, you know? China tends to be a lot more permissive on this front. If you're an American in China, I'm not saying you can get away with breaking the law. I'm just saying, like, it's pretty well known that they treat foreigners well in China, at least on a governmental level, because they want you to invest. Isn't this good for jihad? Everything the Trump administration has done so far is good for jihad. Keep your chin up, brother. Obama didn't care about Guantanamo, really? Well, Guantanamo wasn't being used that actively, and also it is technically like American soil, right? You know, on indefinite lease from Cuba, even though the Cuban government doesn't recognize the lease. So, I mean, I'm not defending the existence of Guantanamo. I'm just saying there is a difference between Gitmo and El Salvador. Wait, how? It's complicated. I hope he comes back soon.
Criminal charges for alleged human trafficking. Abrego Garcia has been at the center of a high-profile court battle over his mistaken deportation to El Salvador. These charges are related to a 2022 traffic stop in Tennessee, where the Department of Homeland Security said Abrego Garcia was pulled over with a vehicle full of passengers who all gave his home address as their own. The Trump administration has admitted his deportation to El Salvador was what they called an administrative error, but had refused to facilitate his return despite a Supreme Court ruling.
Then why not cite this as the initial, like, charge? Why the MS-13 hand tattoos? If they had more information to go off of, like, this is an old case. This is the case that the judge issued the do not deport order for because it was ongoing. Like, what is this? Hold on, was he already charged on this? Is this like double jeopardy? Because you can't be charged twice with the same crime. Didn't he already have ongoing litigation on this? Or did he have litigation ongoing that was on a slightly different thing? I actually don't know.
Let's get right to ABC's Catherine Falders, who has this exclusive reporting. So, Catherine, what do we know so far?
So, Diane, what we know is that KILMAR Abrego Garcia is back on his way from El Salvador.
You can be charged twice if one was state, one was federal. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well, I think there's a difference there. Because you can if the charges are concurrent, but if one doesn't stick, the feds can't then go, okay, round two, afterwards, which is what's happening here. Yeah, he had the federal withholding of deportation, but I think that was because he already was undergoing litigation for this case. I'm going to look at the Wikipedia article. I'm going to remind myself. Just give me a sec.
To the United States, he's flying here in